It began on a dry, restless Saturday night in Wichita Falls, Texas, the kind of heat-heavy evening where even the streetlights looked like they were sweating. Outside a little corner store called Manny's Quick Stop, a man in navy blue scrubs stepped out, juggling a plastic bag of groceries in one hand and fumbling with his car keys in the other. He was tired, but not defeated, just worn from the weight of another long shift. His name was Marcus Avery, 34 years old. Calm, composed, the kind of man who said, "Yes, ma'am," and "No, sir," without irony. The kind who left big tips at small diners and held doors for strangers like it was second nature. Marcus had just wrapped up a 12-hour shift at Ridgefield Medical Center. It was the kind of job that left your legs aching, your soul tired, and your patience tested. But he did it anyway: trauma rooms, emergency intakes, stabilizing the wounded, holding the hands of the dying. The quiet kind of hero. All he could think about as he stepped into the evening air was how much he wanted to kick off his sneakers and eat the leftover ribs in his fridge. But life, as it often does, had other plans. The moment he reached his car, he heard the sudden screech of tires behind him. Doors flew open. Heavy boots slammed onto the pavement like thunder. "Hey, drop the bag," a sharp voice barked from the shadows. Startled, Marcus turned slowly, still holding the bag of Gatorade and chips. Two officers stormed toward him, one bulky with a red buzz cut, the other taller, lanky, with a wiry mustache that seemed too eager for his youthful face. Their hands hovered dangerously close to their holsters. "I just came from the store," Marcus said cautiously, keeping his tone low and steady, hands visible. The shorter cop, his badge reading Officer Colton Breeze, walked up and slapped the bag clean out of Marcus's hand. The Gatorades clattered and rolled onto the street. "You match the description," Breeze snapped. "Shut it and put your hands behind your back." Marcus's brows furrowed. "What description? I was just—" But before he could finish, the second officer, Officer Rick Tavers, grabbed his wrist and yanked it behind his back, twisting hard. A jolt of pain flared up Marcus's arm. At the nearby gas pumps, a woman froze mid-swipe on her phone, recording. A teenager stood with a soda in hand, eyes wide. No one moved. No one helped. No one stopped it. "I'm a nurse. I work at Ridgefield," Marcus grunted through clenched teeth. "Yeah," Breeze smirked. "And I'm the Surgeon General." Marcus could have fought back. He had the strength, but he also had the wisdom to know how that would end. So he stood still, his cheeks burning with humiliation, his heart thudding like a slow drumbeat inside his ribs. He thought of his mother, who always said, "Hold your ground, but never lose your dignity." So he said nothing. The ride to the station was silent. The cops laughed about the Mavericks game on the radio. No Miranda rights. No charges. Just the stale stench of vinyl seats and cheap aftershave. When they pulled into the Wichita Falls PD lot, Breeze yanked Marcus from the back seat like luggage, scraping his arm against the doorframe. Inside, beneath fluorescent lights that buzzed like angry insects, an older desk clerk looked up from her crossword. Her eyes flicked from Marcus to the officers and back again. "Shoplifting suspect," Tavers muttered, slapping a clipboard on the desk. The woman's gaze lingered. She didn't speak, but she buzzed the cell block door open. Marcus was tossed into a cold concrete room with no windows, a steel bench, no phone call, no paperwork, nothing. Just four walls and time. 1 hour passed. Then another. Then another. No one came. When the door finally creaked open, it wasn't a lawyer or detective. It was Breeze again, holding a thin manila folder like it was a fast food order. "Turns out," he said with a shrug, "you're not our guy." Marcus didn't move. "You fit the description though: black male, dark hoodie, dark pants. You know how it is. No apology. No remorse. You're free to go." He left the station in silence. But not because he had nothing to say. Because he had plans. Big ones. At home, Marcus sat alone at the kitchen table, the softened light casting shadows on the walls. His phone buzzed every few seconds: friends, coworkers, strangers. The arrest video had gone viral. Comments poured in. Another innocent man, buying Gatorade, got treated like a criminal. Wichita Falls PD at it again. But the solidarity didn't dull the sting. Marcus felt humiliated. Angry. Small. He almost let it go. He almost convinced himself to just move on. But then he glanced at the photograph above his kitchen counter. His father, Samuel Avery, dressed in full army greens, standing proud with a medal in one hand and a rifle in the other. A man who lived through segregation, battlefields, and broken promises and still believed in doing right. Never let them steal your dignity. Marcus stood. He opened his closet. Past the scrubs and jackets, he reached for the uniform he hadn't touched in years. His own service uniform. Army veteran. Medals earned in Afghanistan. Humanitarian service in Haiti. Hurricane relief in New Orleans. He hadn't just treated wounds in hospitals. He had saved lives in war zones. He was more than a nurse. By morning, he had a plan. Not rage. Not rants. A strategy. He gathered statements from witnesses. Screenshots of the video. Drafted a precise, professional complaint. Called an old Army friend, now a legal advisor for the military. They agreed to meet him at the station. At 9 a.m. sharp, Marcus returned to Wichita Falls PD, not in scrubs this time, but in his full uniform. Clean. Decorated. Impeccable. He stepped out of his car slowly. The sun caught the gleam of his ribbons, bronze, silver, gold. Cigarettes paused mid-smoke. A young officer whispered to his partner. Marcus adjusted the brim of his cap, smoothed his sleeves, and stepped inside. The desk clerk blinked, then buzzed him in without a word. At the center of the main room sat Officers Breeze and Tavers, mid-conversation over coffee and donuts. Marcus stopped 10 feet away. "Good morning," he said, voice like steel. "I'm here to file a formal complaint." Both men froze. Breeze turned, his smirk evaporating. Tavers blinked twice, color draining from his face. The air in the room thickened. "Sir," the clerk called, "the watch commander will see you now." Marcus followed her down the hall. Inside the office waited Captain Elena Monroe, tough, gray-haired, no nonsense. Beside her stood Captain James Lowry, JAG Corps, military liaison. "Mr. Avery," Monroe said, rising. Her eyes scanned his medals, the precision of his uniform. "Thank you for coming in." Marcus placed the complaint on the table, evidence, witness statements, a copy of the viral video, medical documentation of bruises. Captain Lowry added his papers, one notifying the Department of Defense of abuse of a service member, another requesting an internal probe. Monroe nodded. "You understand this is serious." "I understand better than anyone," Marcus replied, his voice unshaken. Outside the glass window, Breeze and Tavers could see it all. They couldn't hear it, but they saw enough. An hour later, both were placed on immediate administrative leave. Internal Affairs launched an official review. Marcus didn't cheer. He didn't taunt. He left as he came, in silence, with dignity intact. By Monday, the town was roaring. The video was everywhere. Army vet wrongfully arrested in Wichita Falls. Headlines. Interviews. Legal analysts. Editorials. The mayor held a press conference. "We are reviewing our protocols," he read off a statement. Breeze and Tavers didn't swagger through the station anymore. They avoided eye contact. Internal whispers grew louder. Turns out Marcus wasn't their only victim, just the first who fought back. Within weeks, both officers were suspended without pay. Prior complaints resurfaced. Civil suits mounted. Marcus didn't disappear. He returned to Ridgefield Medical. His patients greeted him differently now, not just as Nurse Avery, but as the man who stood up and stood tall. He didn't boast. He didn't chase cameras. He quietly met with high schoolers during Veterans Day, speaking softly about dignity, calm, and purpose. And they listened. Because Marcus wasn't a viral clip. He was real, human, present. The mayor sent an official letter of apology. The Department of Defense sent another, thanking him for upholding the values of service, even in civilian life. He tucked both letters into a drawer. Because his reward wasn't paper. It was knowing someone, somewhere, stood taller because of how he handled that night. Marcus knew he hadn't changed the world. But maybe, just maybe, he'd shifted it an inch in the right direction. Not with rage. Not with revenge. But with relentless dignity. And for those who needed the reminder, he left this. Dignity is not a gift. It's a decision. A shield. And when wielded right, it changes everything.